We're live with Dr. Morissa Henn from Intermountain Healthcare to talk about an incredible announcement. This is an exclusive announcement. The first time it's being announced, and then it'll be announced to everyone in the world right after this. But I think this is so critical during this time. So, Dr. Henn, I'm gonna let you take this away and give us the good news.
All right, thanks so much, Clint, for having me on. So the big announcement is that today Intermountain Healthcare is announcing the launch of a free resource called the Emotional Health Relief Hotline. And this is a phone number. The phone number is 833-442-2211. And anyone who's experiencing emotional distress or anxiety or any just difficult emotions and feelings surrounding COVID-19 or in general around this uncertain time can call this number and get support. And you don't have to be in crisis. You don't have to be kind of in a desperate situation. You can call and get self-care resources. You can get peer supports. You can get connections to outpatient options. So we're really excited to announce this. It's not just for health professionals, it's for the entire community.
So IHC, Intermountain Healthcare, has been an incredible partner in all of this. And when I say partner, I mean both with the Silicon Slopes community and just broadly with the state of Utah, helping combat the effects of COVID-19 on the testing front. IHC has done incredible work. You announced 20 locations, I believe I don't know, 1 or 2 days. All the days are the same to me, but at this point. But recently announced 20 new locations on the testing front. So you're helping on the healthcare side, as you would imagine IHC to do, being a leader in this state on that front. And I love the focus on mental health and emotional health. And so I want to double click on this for those watching, that this emotional health relief program that IHC is rolling out today. The hotline is 833-442-2211. And this is for everyone. This is not just for healthcare providers. Can you talk a little bit, Dr. Henn, about how this all came together and how quickly you spun this up?
Yeah, well, mental well-being is really core to our mission at Intermountain on any day, but it is especially important right now. We know that this is an unprecedented time. The stresses that we're all under emotionally, physically, economically are profound. And so we really set this up because we know that in order to take care of our physical bodies, as you said, we need that strong emotional footing. So essentially, we took an idea that we thought we've been talking about and normally would take probably a good 4 months to set up. And by bringing together about 100 people within our organization, combined with so many others from the community, we actually built it in about 4 days. And it's pretty cool because what happens is when people call the line, the care coordinators who answer the phone are able in a few minutes to ask some validated questions, really understand where that person's coming from, what their unique issues and circumstances are, and then based on their level of need and risk and situation, recommend to them an array of resources. So it's pretty cool. And it's just been exciting to work with so many different people from, the clinicians on the behavioral health side to our IT pros to so many people, including, the University of Utah has a big crisis system we partnered with and the Department of Human Services. It's taken a village.
Can you talk about how IHC and the University of Utah Health and all these different, medical providers are partnering together? I mean, again, this feels like something that Utah does best, and that is locking arms and tackling problems together. What has that been like?
Yeah. So I've been lucky. My focus in the last several years has been on suicide prevention. And this has opened my eyes to the ways in which this complex problem can only be solved through this dynamic collaboration. And so when those of us in the suicide prevention community came together about a month ago, we said, we're worried. Utah has been one of the few states that in the last few years has actually really plateaued its suicide rate while the rest of the US has increased. How do we not lose those gains? How do we keep vulnerable people safe? But obviously it goes beyond suicide. It's just about dealing with the day-to-day stresses that can be so destabilizing. So the minute we had this idea, we reached out to the Department of Human Services. We reached out to the University of Utah Neuropsychiatric Institute. We basically brought together the experts and said, what resources do you have? What resources do we have? And how do we combine them in an integrated, digitally enabled way? So that's what's really exciting, is that I think one of the things that's been unique to watch is how we have to reach people in a very different way than just the typical show up at the clinic, show up at the emergency department manner. And that's only possible by bringing to bear all the great resources of the state.
Can you give some those watching? I mean, I actually just had the CEO of Homey, Johnny Hanna, on to talk about how his company is dealing with kind of mental health issues within the company and how he's kind of led a little bit within the Silicon Slopes community over the past year or so on the, bringing more awareness to this issue. He's actually been incredible.
Yeah.
Homie has and Johnny has. I don't know if you know Johnny, but I'm sure you've talked to him as well. He's been a real leader within our community on this. And we were talking about, different tips that leaders, for leaders on this issue and different, ways to combat, we're all at home now. Life's quite a bit different than it was, 3-4 weeks ago. What tips would you give those watching?
Well, first, let me say that Johnny is such an inspiration to me and to so many of us. I feel lucky that I've gotten to know Johnny and many of the other individuals who have been leaders in this space over the last probably 6 months or so. And I think what stands out about their approach is the vulnerability that they're willing to lean into, to say that mental health isn't this far off affliction that you sort of see in others. It's something that is really universal. It's part of our human experience. So to that extent, I think we need to learn from his example in raising this as part of our own day-to-day well-being. And now is the perfect time to do that. So some of the things we talk about a lot, that I talk about as a leader and as a manager, first of all, is just keeping in mind some perspective that things will get better. The world is not ending, and things will get better. And so we have to, as leaders, I think, model not becoming what I sometimes call don't go catastrophic. Try to recognize these are huge challenges, but also many of us have overcome great challenges in our life. And I think that kind of philosophy is important first and foremost. I think in addition to that, there's lots of day-to-day practical things. There's no question the evidence around exercise is incredible. I mean, even just short walks. I know in my neighborhood, downtown Salt Lake, I just try to get out a few times a day, on the weekends, maybe something a little bit longer and steeper, but just getting out there for a little bit of exercise. One of the hardest things for those of us who are constantly plugged into news and politics, distancing yourself from some media at times and really figuring out what the right balance is for you and for your family. Third is just remembering social distancing doesn't mean social disconnection. We obviously have great tools at our disposal to stay connected with loved ones, but even for those of us who have a strong kind of family and friends foundation, we can find ourselves self-isolating. So remember, reach out, be in touch with people in new ways. And then a few others, I think just sort of remembering the things that you love and that bring you joy that you can keep doing. My husband and I realized that we love having at the end of the day, a cheese plate with a few little shrimps and cocktail. And so we started doing a daily cheese plate at the end of a long day. Boy, does it feel kind of, just the life just feels a little bit more bright when you have that thing to look forward to. So I think those are some basic things that we have to keep reinforcing. And I think business leaders and organizational heads are great people to set that example of how are each of us, as Johnny has taught us, recognizing this is a tough time. These are constant stresses, and how do we build things into our day-to-day that can make it a little bit easier?
I love your what you said there, that social distancing does not mean social disconnection. I think that's a powerful statement. I wonder if you have tips. So many of us, I mean, everyone in the state of Utah is now, with children who has families, is now kind of homeschooling. And, on top of, their responsibilities at work and everything else, they're tasked with, helping teach their kids and doing some homeschooling. What advice would you have for parents during this time?
I would say, first of all, just be gentle to yourselves. I mean, if your kids are needing a little more screen time, if they're not able to focus quite as much, it's okay. They will be okay. You are not a bad parent. I think I'm not a parent yet myself, but I know in talking with my sister who has kids, there's just a lot of guilt that we carry that we're not, somehow teaching them a third language during COVID. Like, I think just knowing that things are okay, and as long as, full on violence isn't breaking out in ways that are leading to bloodshed, like, you're doing a great job. So I think that reassurance is important. And then I think looking for ways to reassure kids in a way that's developmentally appropriate. So for a lot of kids, they might not come to you saying, I'm scared or I'm nervous, but you might discover even through play that they're exhibiting, pretend versions of fear and anxiety. And so showing them positive outcomes through play is a great way of helping them understand that things will be okay. Because at the end of the day, kids are watching our reactions more than anything. And if we can model for them, this is a tough time, but we're going to get through this as a family. We are okay. That at the end of the day is the most soothing element of support we can give our families.
Well, Dr. Henn, Utah is so lucky to have you in Intermountain Healthcare during this time. And always, I just want to go back to this emotional health relief program that you just announced here. And the number is 833-442-2211. We
That's
also,
right.
as I understand it, we're going to have you on the Silicon Slopes Town Hall today.
Yeah.
And we'll go a little bit deeper there. But I appreciate you making this announcement here. I'd encourage everyone to spread the news. And, again, I just want to thank you on behalf of the Silicon Slopes organization and IHC for everything that you're doing and everything that
Oh, well,
IHC is doing on the medical side, on the testing side, on the mental health side. I mean, there's so many folks who are real heroes within IHC. And so I just want to, on behalf of Silicon Slopes, thank you and IHC for everything you're doing.
Thank you. That really means a lot. And it's just been such a pleasure getting to know you all better and partnering as we move forward. Thanks.
Thanks, Dr. Henn. We'll see you on the town hall. Appreciate it.
Great.